Hi, I'm Thomas Ferreira, founder of Divorce Life Solutions and mediator and attorney in Carlsbad, California. And today I want to talk to you about having an amicable divorce. The biggest enemy to having an amicable divorce is the low trust that naturally arises between the parties. And I'll ask you a question. For how many of you is your soon-to-be ex-spouse your favorite person? Usually it isn't for most people, and that's because at the beginning of the process, most people are in an antagonistic relationship. And what tends to happen is that through the fighting and conflict, the two people end up in two armed camps. And the more they fight, the more expensive the case gets, and then the more they have invested, so the more they fight. And it takes on kind of a vicious cycle. So what I want to do is encourage you to do some things right at the outset that can help you to have what we would call an amicable divorce. I have 4 tips or 4 concepts that I want to get across. First of all, you've got to manage your internal attitude. You have to change your stance from that of somebody who's angry to that of somebody who is more understanding. You have to have a conversation at the beginning so that you don't veer off into conflict. You want to opt out of the husband versus wife, Kramer versus Kramer system, and you want to develop an attitude of not sweating the small things and to try and see the big picture so you can move to resolution. So let's talk about the first tactic, which is essentially to change your own attitude. The fact is, there's one person that you really cannot change in this, and that's the other person, the other spouse. But you can change your own attitude. I have a client who every time his ex-wife would call him on his cell phone, the B word would pop up, because he thought that was funny, and it was a way that he kind of coddled his anger. But what we suggested is that he put in a more neutral name. So we picked George, so that every time she called, the name George would pop up, and that tickled his sense of humor and led to a more charitable attitude. The fact is that you're not going to get anywhere if you're angry and coming from a place of hate. What you're going to do is you're going to essentially poison the one relationship that could help you to save money, stay out of conflict, and cooperate for the benefit of your children. So don't be a hater. Try to understand that parties to a divorce are generally decent people. You might not feel like your ex is a decent person, but it helps at least to understand where they're coming from. So next week, I'm going to talk about how to have the difficult initial conversation with your ex about the divorce. So please stay tuned. I'm Thomas Ferreira.